news this week. The AT&T and Verizon, as they were prepared to turn on their new national 5G network, some 4,500 new towers activated. The FAA requested they pause that rollout around key airports because the FAA hadn't reviewed the publicly available data or informed airlines about the data as to how the signal may affect the radar altimeters of Boeing 777s and 787s due to similar frequencies being used.
Yeah, and certain airlines canceled flights into O'Hare and other airports because they didn't want to take a chance.
Now, if that's too complicated for you to understand, maybe this explanation will help you understand how you could have signal interference between these 5G networks and the radar altimeters on commercial airlines.
Modal interaction of magnetoreluctance and capacitive directance. The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fan. The lineup consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marsal vanes, so fitted to the ambifacient lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal Lotus-O deltoid type placed in panendermic semi-boloid slots of the stator. Every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible Tremie pipe to the differential girdle spring on the up end of the gram meters.
Okay, this is a joke.
Moreover, whenever fluorescent score motion is required, it may also be employed in conjunction with a drawn reciprocation dingle arm to reduce sinusoidal depleneration. The retroencabulator has now reached a high level of development, and it's being successfully used in the operation of Milford trunnions. It's available soon wherever Rockwell Automation products are sold.
Yeah, so
Where did you get that?
I thought it had something to do with girdle springs.
Yeah, I love
I wasn't
girdle
sure.
spring.
Yeah, but it sounded like a humanities professor trying to explain critical race theory. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Robert Mark. He is the publisher of Jet Wine. That's WHINE, jetwine.com. Robert, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
I don't want you to explain the 5G radar altimeter flap. I want you to explain that video we just heard. Could you provide definitions to all the terminology that was used?
Sure, but you know what? It would take more than your show to.
We've got till 9 o'clock.
All right.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So how could this be girdle sprung on the FAA that these 5G networks being rolled out, and they were concerned about airline safety?
Well, this isn't a new problem. I mean, the aviation industry started crying for help or assistance back in, I think 2015 or 2016, when the government sold that frequency band to the telecom networks, because the aviation industry is concerned because the frequency that these radar altimeters, the things that tell pilots how high they are above the ground, is very near the frequency band of these 5G new 5G networks, and the aviation industry said, "Hey, guys, we don't think this is such a great idea because there's going to be some interference." Like when you're trying to tune your radio and you get back in the old days when they weren't digital, you could get part of another station on your radio at the same time, and they don't want to see that. I know it sounds antiquated, but it is possible that it's going to happen. And there has been.
But I mean, Robert, what's more important, a Gen Zer uploading a video to TikTok or a pilot knowing how far above the ground he is, really, in the grand scheme of things?
Do you want to? Yeah, well,
I mean,
it depends on which side you're on.
Right. How serious is the possibility that the 5G would interfere such that the radar altimeter would give an improper reading or be interfered with in some way?
Well, the FAA has just recently, like yesterday, cleared a number of aircraft, and we're talking about commercial airplanes. Boeings and Airbuses and things like that, cleared quite a few of them because they have the technology they believe to avoid these frequencies. And of course, the agency wanted all along was some research to show that this wasn't a problem, and nobody wanted to do it. And so it just kept getting closer and closer to the deadline. But again, now it looks like the situation may not be as dire as everybody had thought it might be.
So if you're in a 787 or a 777, that's bad. But a 737 MAX and an Airbus 320, they can handle the new 5G?
Yeah, who would have thought a 737 MAX would be okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. But
Too soon.
It's all going to be dependent on further research on the 777. There are some models of the 777 that will be able to get through this.
But so who's the Wall Street Journal opined on this too, and they essentially, ascribe some blame to the rollout and some blame to the FAA being asleep at the tower, so to speak. So does the FAA bear some culpability here as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think they absolutely do. I mean, if this has been going on for 7 years, the FAA should have been yelling and screaming at the very worst, the beginning of 2020 or something like that, saying, guys, this is really going to happen, and we're not going to stand for it. And it's things always happen. FAA doesn't act, it reacts. And so, that's kind of how they operate.
But what are they doing in Europe? Because they have the new 5G over there already. So is there something different that they're doing?
Well, as I understand it, the frequency range that they're using in Europe is different.
Okay.
It doesn't mean they're not in the same band, but in the U.S., they gave the telecoms a much wider berth on the frequency band, and that's why they have not had any problems in Europe, because, again, they didn't get that close to the frequencies that these radar altimeters operate on.
Well, the carriers paid $80 billion for the spectrum, so you'd think they'd probably want to use it. And also,
that's true. Yes.
In March of 2020, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, here we go with the alphabet soup, approved a 258-page decision that included a safe buffer between the bands occupied by altimeters and 5G, which is reportedly larger than many other countries require. So again, the flap here.
Well, this is bureaucracy. I mean, FCC and FAA have not been talking well at all for a number of years about this. And the FCC said don't worry, it's all going to be fine. No one needs to worry about it at all. And FAA said, well, show us some proof. Give us some details that we can sink our teeth into. And apparently it never really came across. So it was down to a trust us at the FCC to have everybody's best interests at heart. Well, come on. FCC is really a communications regulator, and no one expected them to be looking out for the best interests of aviation as well. And so that's kind of how we got to this point.
But the net of this is any concern about the safety on commercial flights with this 5G rollout? Do you have any concerns about safety?
Well, not right now for probably 2/3 of the fleet. And again, what happens with the rest of those airplanes? It may be like what Emirates is doing. Emirates wasn't going to fly the 777 into the United States because they didn't want to take a chance.
Right.
And now they're being told it's okay. So will this be an aircraft model by aircraft model? Probably. But it seems like suddenly, if they can get a list together of all the aircraft that are approved on it in just a few days, hopefully they can get this cleared up soon.
And why can't they just move the towers away from the airports? I mean,
Because airports are the worst places to cut cell service because, everybody in the world wants to make a phone call, especially when their flight is canceled. And so they wanted to make sure they had terrific service around there.
Talking about the aviation industry more generally now, against the backdrop of the last 2 years of lockdown policies and mask mandates and fights on planes and whatnot, and union pushback against vax mandates and so forth. What's the state of commercial aviation in terms of the necessary and qualified personnel, in terms of the relationship between the carriers and the public, do you think? Has that suffered significant damage, in your opinion?
It did, actually, because when the pandemic began, the airlines, all except for United, actually, basically panicked and said, "Oh my God, we're going to have so many airplanes and people sitting around. We're going to offer early retirement to a lot of pilots and a lot of other personnel," and a lot of pilots took them up on it. And then about 5-6 months later, they said, "Oh, you know what? We made a mistake. This is going to come back sooner than we thought." And they realized that they were going to be short of people. The people they just let go. And it's been kind of chaotic ever since, because we're still short of pilots and mechanics. And I'm not certain about flight attendants, but again, that is it's not something you can easily fix, because you don't train a big airplane pilot in 2 or 3 months at a tech school. And until that is solved, there are going to be chaotic moments like we've had in the last few months, when the weather gets bad and airplanes are not, they end up diverting or ending up not where they're supposed to be. There's nobody to bring them back, because the crews time out, because they're only allowed to fly so much. And then the whole system falls apart because it's dependent on the next airplane.
And, the CEOs of these commercial carriers didn't exactly distinguish themselves during the pandemic. It was only after he had announced he was retiring did Southwest CEO Greg Kelly say, "Oh, yeah, the masks don't really add anything." And I think the American Airlines CEO, also retiring, said the same thing. Yeah, what Greg Kelly said is right. Thanks for chiming in, 20 months in.
Right. And of course, keep in mind, they're not doctors. I mean, they're not, it's like the FAA trying to interact with the FCC. I mean, anybody can have an opinion, but that doesn't make it correct.
But don't you think that's the reason why?
They have data, though, over the course of 20 months of the pandemic, too, and we all have data about transmission on airplanes and so on and so forth. So we know that, not to mention studies on mask wearing, where there's no distinguishing between N95s and pulling your collar over your mouth. So I mean, anybody, even a layman, can read the data and say, yeah, basically what they're saying is what a lot of people knew, which is why there was so much frustration, particularly when certain flight attendants were enjoying the power like some hack politician in D.C.
Well, but you have to understand that the feds came down with a rule that said you're going to wear a mask on board an airplane. Now, you may not like it, but that's the deal. So if you don't want to hassle, wear the mask.
No, I understand. I understand what the feds did, but that doesn't mean that the CEO of an airline can't say we're going to comply because it's the feds said so. But it's stupid. You're allowed to say that.
Oh well, again, that's another story entirely. But again, that's another issue that we never had before. Look at last year, the highest number of in-flight hassles with flight crew that we've ever seen.
5,981. Well, they're losing their minds too, but they're denying them liquids too. I mean, my God, I think that if they brought back booze on planes, people would just relax and calm down. But they're not offering water or anything because they're afraid it's going to be a super spreading event, which we know it's not. We know that with the HEPA filtration system, an airplane is just as clean as a room where they're performing surgeries. I mean,
I'm not aware that they weren't offering drinks. No alcohol, certainly, but I was just flying last week, and the Southwest guys had 5 offers of drinks.
Oh, good.
Which one you want. I've not heard about anybody being denied, non-alcoholic beverages. But again, what's happening is the airlines are not allowing people to drink on board, but people are getting boozed up in the terminal before they get on the airplane. And the results are pretty much the same.
That's the only way to fly, I find. Robert Mark, he is the publisher of Jet Wine magazine. That's Jet, W-H-I-N-E, jetwine.com. Robert, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks very much for inviting me. We'll see you guys soon.
Yep, thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Your home as is, even during these unprecedented times. In fact, fewer people are comfortable selling their homes today, particularly with the traditional approach of listing your home with an agent. The thought of dozens of strangers walking through your house day and night, touching who knows what, is too much for many sellers. Grandview can provide a fair cash offer to buy your home in as little as 24 hours and close in as few as 10 days. And we can provide our fair cash offer without a visit if you prefer. With fewer sellers in the market, Grandview is looking to buy more homes now. So Grandview will pay thousands more for your home than we would have just a couple months ago. Remember, Grandview will buy your home on the day you choose. And we buy homes as is, no matter the condition. No repairs necessary, not even a clean out. You pay no closing costs, no fees, no commission. Grandview is the fastest, safest, and most stress-free way to sell your home. And we now pay more for your home than ever before. Put your mind at ease and leave the stress and the mess to us. Visit grandviewhomes.com.
All right, in the just so you know column, Delta, United, Alaska, and JetBlue are offering beer and wine for coach passengers. Southwest, only non-alcohol drinks, and American first class, you can have booze, and in coach, you cannot. All right, Permaseal Basement Systems is celebrating their 43rd anniversary this month with a sale on products and services that you can use this winter. Throughout January, they are offering 15%, off their PermaFoam installation to help keep your home and feet warmer, and 10% off all crawl space solutions. Call 800-421-SEAL, 800-421-7325. They also have a deal on sump pumps and backup sump pump systems. 800-421-7325 to schedule a free inspection, or go online to permaseal.net. Permaseal, known best for being better.
This is Jerry Boyer for townhall.com. We recently received the inflation numbers for December, and I'm sure most of you are feeling it. We are at 7% year-to-year inflation, the highest annual rate in 40 years. 2021 gave you inflation. This was not only predictable, it was also avoidable. When money supply grows at vastly higher rates than money demand, inflation results. If the Fed keeps adding trillions to the monetary base at the same time that the regulators suppress commerce, that amounts to more money chasing fewer goods, an inflationary double whammy. Is anyone helped by this? Yes, the ruling class in politics and finance, who get the new money first, get to spend it before the resulting inflation. It's time to put the blame where it belongs: a binge-spending government and a central bank in the role of enabler.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world